continue that this is a rich, powerful
here's what I would
cover-up.
say. Here's what I would say about that. All of the women who received payments, and I believe they received about $120 million in payments from the Epstein estate after he died. All of them are free to go out and name exactly who they say assaulted them, who they say victimized them in any way. They have complete ability to do that. The so-called Epstein victims who have received over $100 million.
So-called Epstein victims. We should call that out for what that.
Guys, this is a wild one. In this clip, a Piers Morgan panel erupts after one guest refers to the people who say they were victimized by Jeffrey Epstein as so-called victims. That comment immediately puts him under pressure and turns the discussion into a heated argument over accountability and transparency. We've seen similar arguments before where the focus shifts from the victims to defending political figures. So let's watch the clip and see exactly how this unfolds. I'll save most of my commentary for the end. Before we dive into the full story, comment where you're watching from and don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Let's get into it.
Well, let's hear now from my panel. Isaiah Martin is a Democrat congressional candidate in Texas who has just gone viral after taking on 20 Republicans in this week's Jubilee. Mike Nellis is host of Endless Urgency, the strategist behind White Dudes for Harris. And Clay Travis is founder of Outkick. And Tyrus is on his way and will be joining us very soon. Okay, just first of all, Clay Travis, let's just talk about this Epstein scandal. Because it is completely bizarre sitting here in London, watching people go down like dominoes. And these are not insignificant figures. You've got the former Prince Andrew in line to the throne of the UK, obviously. You've got Lord Mandelson, who was a UK ambassador to the United States. He's gone. They've both been completely torched as a consequence of what's emerged about them in these files. But we're not seeing that in America. Why are we not? And do you want us to?
Well, I think, first of all, there should be people bearing consequences who were involved in actually some sort of activity with girls alongside of Epstein. And I think you have seen a lot of Americans lose their jobs. I mean, the head of one of the biggest law firms in the United States lost his job. You've seen people in media lose jobs recently that they've gotten. But I think also people are looking at some of the details and saying there's a difference. For instance, Howard Lutnick's being attacked right now, and you can criticize him for continuing to interact with Jeffrey Epstein, certainly. But he went to Epstein Island with his wife and a bunch of kids on a cruise trip to the Caribbean. And so all connections are not the exact same. I think what you're actually seeing in the United States is there's being a lot of discernment as to what was going on. I'll also add in, there's so much volume here that I do think a lot of people are just frankly overwhelmed with the 3 million different documents that are out there and all the different names that are flooding the zone. I think there's some degree of people just being overwhelmed with the sheer amount of people that were involved here across all the landscape. And so, again, I think there's some discernment when it comes to actual interaction. Are these business partners? Are these people who were involved with women or not? Are these people that may have even gone to the island, as I said, in the case of Howard Lutnick, and done so with their wife and with their kids, which I think is quite a lot different than the crimes that Epstein was accused of committing.
Okay, Mike Nellis, I mean, notwithstanding, a lot of what Clay said there, I'm sure is right, but people want accountability. And as I said to Congresswoman Mace, the fact that there are going to be more than 3 million documents from the Epstein files that apparently are not going to be made public strikes me as absolutely staggering. And of course, that's going to do nothing but inflame all the raging conspiracy theories.
I think that's absolutely right, is people should be incredibly angry that nobody is being prosecuted for this. And let's be clear about what's happening here. The Department of Justice under Donald Trump and Pam Bondi are covering this up. Let's not forget that in July, over the July 4th weekend, they told us that this investigation was over and that there was nothing there. How many times do we have to hear that Donald Trump isn't in the Epstein files, then we find out he's in there a million times? How many times do we have to listen to guys like Howard Lutnick say, I met Jeffrey Epstein once and then it turns out he was a creep and I wasn't there? You keep unwinding this stuff and you find that these guys have been lying for so long. So the reason there isn't accountability either criminally or just in polite society like Nancy Mace talked about earlier is because Donald Trump is at the heart of this because these guys are covering it up. Howard Lutnick says, I didn't know anything about Jeffrey Epstein. He only lived next door to the guy, started a business with the guy, and brought his kids, which to me is disgusting, on a trip to Epstein Island after it was already known that the guy was a registered sex offender. Donald Trump is out there saying, I didn't know anything about Jeffrey Epstein and what he was doing, except he was talking about it. He partied with the guy. He met his wife, his current wife, at an Epstein party. Not to mention the fact that he's mentioned the files over 1 million times. So it's embarrassing to me. And to your point, Piers, all over Europe, people are having their careers destroyed because of their relationship with a guy who is a registered sex offender who trafficked kids. And that's not happening in the United States. And it's embarrassing. And frankly, it's embarrassing when MAGA bootlickers come on and defend this stuff because it's an 80-20 issue to the vast majority of Americans who are pissed. Kids were abused here. We got to take this seriously.
We have, but Isaiah Martin, I mean, you know,
well, the government
Democrats
hasn't. You're
don't have
taking it
clean-
seriously, Piers, which I appreciate.
What crimes specifically should be charged?
Well,
And who?
at a bare minimum, we know that there were kids that were trafficked. How is it possible that Ghislaine Maxwell is the only person that's ever going to be prosecuted for that?
Well, because she trafficked. I mean, if you read the indictment,
She trafficked them by herself. Is your position? Wait, hold on, Clay. Is your position that Ghislaine Maxwell trafficked these kids by herself?
She trafficked them for Jeffrey Epstein. That is what the charges
but by
show.
herself,
That's why
nobody
she
else
was
helped.
prosecuted and
There were
convicted.
1,000 little boys and 1,000 little girls that were trafficked on behalf of Jeffrey Epstein by Ghislaine Maxwell. But is she the only one who did it?
That is not accurate based on the evidence. I just asked a simple question. You want people prosecuted. Who should be prosecuted and what should they be charged with?
Yeah, I want the 6 co-conspirators to be prosecuted for trafficking little kids.
Okay,
and I want the rest of these people. Hold on, Clay. I'm answering your question.
I'm a lawyer, so this matters to me. When you say people should be charged, and when you
human
say
trafficking is a crime, you might want to check your penal
who are
code.
charged, who and with what crimes? Let me also ask you this, as we lead into that: why did Joe Biden not charge anybody? Why did Barack Obama not charge anybody? Do you think the only thing that Democrats and Republicans agree on is that Jeffrey Epstein should be protected and everybody else around him should be protected? Look, the reality here, in my opinion, is if you actually look at the evidence that came out, Trump in 2006 said, thank the Lord, basically, I'm paraphrasing, in the actual Epstein files in 2006, that you were able to charge this guy. We all knew that things were going on that were inappropriate. You can't go after Donald Trump on this at all. Do you really think that Joe Biden
hold on. Let's talk about that for a second.
Evidence that Trump committed crimes when he tried to imprison him for the rest of his life over bogus charges in New York City, when he tried to put him in prison, bankrupt him? You think he's set on Epstein?
Right.
This just doesn't add up. So again, I circle back to the basic question. Who should be charged and what should they be charged with based on your reading of the evidence? Specifically, tell me.
So this is a clever trick that these MAGA influencers like to do, is that they want to blame this on Joe Biden.
How is it a clever trick?
Hey, Clay, let me finish my point. Hold on, and then you can tell me why I'm wrong. But let me finish my point.
I said
I answered your question already, Clay, but you keep interrupting me. All right, listen.
So
this is what they want to do.
Tell us what the charges should be.
This entire thing is a failure of multiple administrations. There are Democrats and Republicans in the file. And the bottom line here is that there's an Epstein class and its defenders like Clay, and there's everybody else. And so right now they're defending Donald Trump, who has been covering this up. There are 6 co-conspirators. Clay, there are 6.
Everybody should be charged with crimes.
No, that's not what I said, Clay. There are 6.
You can't even give me a name or a crime.
Do you realize how obtuse you sound at the idea that nobody else can be charged by this? There are 6 co-conspirators in the files that Congress has seen that are currently blocked off. You can't tell me that 1,000 little girls and boys were trafficked and nobody else.
And what the crime
I don't know their names because they're concealing them in the files, Clay, because the Trump administration is covering this up.
Do you know what?
So you're telling me to tell you something that I don't know.
Time out. You know, the bottom line, Clay, is this. The best way to work out who should be prosecuted and who should be charged is for every one of these files to be released unredacted.
Transparency.
With the exception of the names of the victims. Hang on, with the exception of the names of the victims, right? So that everyone knows exactly who's been accused of what, and then everyone can determine who should potentially be prosecuted or not. Because they're going to keep back 3 million files, the suspicion will continue that this is a powerful
Here's what I would say. Here's what I would say about that. All of the women who receive payments, and I believe they received about $120 million in payments from the Epstein estate after he died. all of them are free to go out and name exactly who they say assaulted them, who they say victimized them in any way. They have complete ability to do that. The so-called Epstein victims who have received over $100 million.
So-called Epstein victims. We should call that out for what that is. That's a bullshit
No,
crime.
it's not. They are
So-called
saying
Epstein
that
victims.
they are Epstein victims and they have been paid. They can come out and say, no one is stopping them. I would welcome them. I would encourage them. Come out
This is
and tell
embarrassing.
us.
Well, actually,
for you,
quite a
Clay.
few.
You should quit
Quite
while
a
you're-
few.
while you're
Hang
doing
on,
it.
hang on. Quite a few.
and
Well,
help
okay,
to
but
bring
Clay, quite a
criminal
few.
charges there.
Quite
That
a few
seems
are
like
beginning to do that.
easy solution.
Quite a few are beginning to do that.
This
So
is
it's
the
going to be
Republican
interesting how
Party.
many more follow that path. Isaiah, you've been waiting very patiently. What's your view of where we are with this scandal?
Yeah. I mean, look, I think that this is a entire view of the Republican Party right here with Clay, the so-called Epstein victims. Look, ultimately, I think if the Republicans wanted to end this situation, they would call and join the millions of Americans that are saying that we want to see the unredacted Epstein files. 3 million files currently sit as we stand today that are redacted. And people want to see the truth. And the fact that you have MAGA running around carrying water for Trump, as Mike said, claiming that these victims are so-called victims or whatever it is, it's a shame to the American public. And it's why the Republican Party is losing trust all around this country. I think it's abundantly clear. It's why they're losing special elections everywhere we see, because of the fact that they are losing the trust of the American people. And I think that what Clay just said makes that abundantly clear.
I don't think that
Okay.
Republicans actually have any particular opinion. I'm sharing my opinion. I think actually the
You just said
majority
they
of
were
people
so-called
are just
Epstein
all
victims.
fed
You
up
said
with
so-called.
the Epstein situation in general. My position is, if you actually
fed
look
up?
at the evidence, I do not believe
Clay, wait a
that
second.
every
You said that
Democrat
they're
in power
fed up?
and every Republican in power conspired to cover up a bevy of charges that would otherwise have been brought. And by the way, if you
No,
want to make it a
Clay,
Democrat
what people are fed up with, they're fed up with the fact that people are going in this country
overwhelmingly
and they're
the people
carrying
who
water
are
for
accused
pedophiles in
of
America.
having
That's what they're
misbehaved
fed up with,
are
Clay.
actually Democrat donors like Jeffrey Epstein. If you want to make it a Democrat-Republican issue, there are way
Clay,
more
this is
prominent
what's so
Democrats
insane
involved
about
in
this
the Epstein
situation.
files
We
than
have
there
said
are
from the very
prominent
beginning
Republicans.
that we
But
support
based on all
every
the
single
evidence
person
that
that
I
is
have
inside of the
seen,
Epstein files
I don't
that has
buy
been
that Joe
assaulting
Biden-
children.
You know the truth.
We want
The
to
truth
call
is,
them out.
okay,
We want to see them
Isaiah,
prosecuted.
the truth- okay,
That's
guys,
what
guys,
we
guys.
say.
The truth is,
that they're not going to charge
guys, the
anybody.
truth is, the Biden administration didn't release these files. The Trump administration promised to and hasn't released all the files. So the American people and the watching world, because this affects many other countries too, are looking on going, who is actually going to honor the claim to be transparent? And I think until there is proper transparency on this, this is going to go on and on and on and on. And actually, someone at some stage has to go, you know what? We're going to put it all out there, because until that happens, the conspiracy theories will rage. I want to move.
And honestly, guys, this is where I had to jump in, because I was listening to this exchange thinking, what exactly is going on here? The moment the conversation turns to why didn't Biden or why didn't Obama, the argument starts moving away from the actual issue. Donald Trump and his administration made promises about transparency and releasing the Epstein files, so naturally, people are going to ask whether those promises have actually been fulfilled. And this isn't about being Democrat or Republican. If powerful people were involved in serious crimes, the standard should be the same for everyone. What makes this even more controversial is the well-documented history of Trump and Epstein appearing together socially. That doesn't by itself prove criminal wrongdoing, and it's important to make that distinction. But it absolutely explains why people are demanding transparency rather than simply being told to move on. And that's the real issue here. Release the evidence, protect the victims' identities, and let the facts speak for themselves. Instead, when people start defending politicians before all the information is public, it only creates more suspicion and fuels even more conspiracy theories. And that so-called victims comment, that's exactly why this discussion became so explosive. What do you guys think about this exchange? Let me know in the comments, hit the like button if you enjoyed the video, and subscribe for more political commentary. I'll see you in the next one.